What you could do though is you can do 200 watts for about 20 minutes, maybe 225 to 250 watts would probably be better for you.
Yeah.
Because your capacity is probably pretty good. Start there and do that for 20 minutes and see if you can do that through here.
Okay.
200 is like, if you start at 200, it's very comfortable.
Okay.
So that might be the best place to start.
200 watts for 20 minutes. Okay. That's what I'll do.
Be able to do stuff like that is...
It's so simple.
It will bump up.
I mean, not that the activity's simple.
It is.
But
it'll bump up the rest of your cardio.
Really?
Because there's a bunch of reasons why, but some of it is like the left ventricle of your heart, I think, gets stronger.
Yeah.
I think basically per every, and I could be wrong on some of it, but every heartbeat that you have is more efficient because the left ventricle of your heart is getting stronger every time you do this, because you're trying to not to, you're taking your heart and you're trying not to like blow it up, like stretch it to like its maximum. You know, this says your max heart rate. You're trying just to kind of go here, and then you stay here, so that the heart is very like spongy, I guess you'd say. You know? So it moves kind of.
It's not maxed out.
At least that's some of my understanding of it, and that type of work will push your like max heart rate up over time. But obviously you need both. Like you can't just like zone 2 everything.
Zone 2 would be what?
Zone
like
2 is
sprinting?
Zone 2 is like 180 minus your age.
Oh, okay.
In your heart rate.
Yeah.
So 180 minus your age. For me it's like 130, but for you it'd be more like 140.
Okay.
But there's some variables in there. But it'd be nice to know, like if you had a watch or a heart rate monitor on.
I do need to
It'd be
track
cool
that.
to see, like, because you have like the mindset already. It'd be cool to see like how long can you maintain. Not that you would really want to do this a lot, but like just maintain like 160.
Yeah.
Maintain that super annoying, like I want to stop, I sort of need to stop, but no, I'm going to keep going, pace.
I think that's what I compare
Shit
cardio.
like that.
That is like what I think of when I think of cardio. It's like keep going, like rev limiter. And that's kind of my equation to cardio. Is like, okay, if I'm doing jiu-jitsu, like I'm dying, I got to get back out there. If I'm doing a run, it's like keep going. So I'm always comparing it to that. I think that comes from me doing the CrossFit things for a while.
The other side of it would be like, just like, find a hill and just sprint the hell out of the damn thing.
And walk back.
That's maybe like nothing more than like 60 yards would be plenty. 40 to 60 yards is kind of a lot. And then walk down and just like not do anything for a while and then sprint up again. But like take your time so that you're just working on that explosiveness. And don't sprint full blast out of nowhere if you haven't sprinted in a while.
Oh yeah. I read a statistic. There's like
You're gonna blow
adults don't. Like the last time they sprint is like when they were a child.
It's like 95% of adults over the age of 30, I think.
That blew my mind. I don't know. That's wild to me. I don't know. I would want to be able to still have that skill set, but at the same time, it's like I don't go sprint every day.
I don't know if people remember what it's like to like
be a kid and play, bro. We talk about business here in a second, but like that's what was always important to me. That's why I got into business, because I still wanted to play.
Do you remember like just like running past one of your friends, how fun it was?
Absolutely.
Riding being bikes. Able to catch someone.
Yeah, I rode BMX bikes, and I would ride bikes, or even whatever.
Just like sprinting down the hallway randomly.
I've sprinted last year, like racing my wife.
Oh,
like,
that's cool.
Like, yeah, it's super. That's so fun, man.
And you totally left her in the dust.
Yeah, of course. I'm not gonna let her beat me. The reason I pushed myself. Like my sister flew in to come visit us here in San Diego, and my brother-in-law, her husband, and he's a football coach. And I'm like, they're not gonna beat me in this run. So when we did the 4th of July down in Coronado, I'm just like, I'm gonna die on this hill. Like just my thought process. Great. So I smoked them. I didn't beat them that far, but my sister runs a lot, but she's on the early onsets of being pregnant. So I can't say that I kicked her ass.
every family has one person like us. Right?
Yes.
That's training all year for this specific turkey trot 5K or something.
Even if I was
that.
bodybuilding and trying to put on weight, I still would have been like, you're not gonna beat me at this run. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna do it.
Your sister's like 8 months pregnant.
Yeah, and
like I'm going to
slaughter
her. I don't care.
And my mom but I couldn't let my brother-in-law beat me. That was for sure. He's younger than me and a football coach. No way. He's in great shape though.
You know what? That's probably the hardest thing to deal with is someone's youth. Like if you.
It's a pretty strong advantage.
Yeah, like I had this kid came into my gym. He's a local wrestler,
Yeah.
and his dad brought him in, and I've been working on like messing around with like juggling. Like I still suck at it, you know.
Hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, I just been like kind of messing with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, oh, let me see if I can do this. And this kid's like, he's like 17, you know, and he messes up, and then he's doing it, and then he's like just totally juggling.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, let me have you go on this treadmill. I want to have you work on some sprints. I'm like, well, it's pretty much the fastest time anybody's done on the treadmill so far since I've been coaching people on this treadmill, you know.
And just a complete athlete.
He's a complete athlete, and he's just, you know, at that age, he's ready to go. But it's not just the age; it's the practice. Like that, he goes to wrestling practice every day. He plays football.
Yeah.
So he's actively in it. And for us, it's cool that we're still actively doing and pursuing, and hopefully other people that are listening are doing the same.
Exactly. And it's fun. Like you said, it's fun. I still remember I was probably middle schoolish, and we went to tour the Air Force Base that was
Good job,
close.
Bumstead.
That shit's good, huh?
Damn.
Yeah. The vanilla and the chocolate's really good.
Nice.
They crushed it. But we went to tour this Air Force Base and just get out there, and then there was this plate above one of the doors. They had the finger pull-ups. You know, you can stick your fingers in there. I was in middle school. And they're like, who thinks they can do this? I'm like, no brainer. Get me on that thing. I did it. And I was just like, bap, no big deal. And they were like, whoa. And I was like, what is everybody so impressed about? Well, now, my age now, and seeing the rest of humans, I was like, I get it. But I didn't think anything about it. Like finger pull-ups. I can still do finger pull-ups, you know? But everybody's built different. And so working on strengths is huge and important, I think.
For what do you think for yourself? I'm sure everyone, you know, everyone's mind, you know, always goes to the military background. But it sounds like you had a little bit of a militant background before you went to the military with your wrestling. Wrestling to me when I was growing up, like I love wrestling. I love pro wrestling and all that stuff. But like, I played football, did some of the other traditional sports, basketball and track. To me, I was like kind of nervous about like wrestling because we had a hard ass wrestling coach, and I was like, I don't know if I. And my oldest brother did, you know, he did wrestle under him, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do it. But do you think some of that discipline from sport, like, you know, leaked over into your business career?
I think that had a massive impact on it, and I think that had a massive impact on it, but. Yeah, sports being driven, but also I think one of the biggest impacts on my business career came from not wanting to be told what to do, which comes from a really funny standpoint that I was in the Marine Corps, which is super strict when it comes to most things, right? You're told what to do the whole time. You work for the government, boom, boom, boom. But a lot of my business was like anti-authority. It's like the only way you really get free and to get to do what you want to do, which I still never wanted to grow up. I was like Peter Pan and the boys, you know, I'm serious. I wanted to have fun, you know, and in order to do that, I realized like I can't have fun if I got a 9 to 5. I can't have fun if I do this. And it's like, I tell people from a business standpoint, I always still had fun. Like in the military, I mean, we fucked off all the time. You have the funniest of stories. You play the biggest of pranks, you know, even if you're doing the worst of things. Like
the military, like when you're a young boy anyway, the military does seem really fun.
It is,
it's
right?
Like
yeah, when you're a boy,
guns,
yeah, sure.
And they got all kinds of cool toys and trucks.
You only remember the good stories, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people that, you know, a lot of bureaucracy for sure. But I still had fun jacking around with the guys. You're still getting to hang out with the guys. So it's very much like sports locker room style, right? Football teams, military, having fun that way. I just wanted more freedom to be able to do what I wanted, which the military had the complete opposite side of that, right? And that's probably what drew me more so to business. Yeah, I think sports and definitely having that. And I also think, I mean, we can debate this, but genetics play a huge part in that. You know, my dad's an entrepreneur. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. So I think that was an advantage in the fact that I see people that come to me. I help people with entrepreneurship and real estate. I think that was an advantage to me in the fact that my dad wasn't like, oh, be careful, don't quit that job and go to college, you know, do X, Y, and Z. So when I saw that they did it, it was just normal. That's just normal to me. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and I think there's like, you know, there's all different kinds of stats that you hear, and this is one I heard, a huge contributing factor to what you're going to be and where you're going to go is like your zip code, you know, and
absolutely,
your zip code probably wasn't different than mine. You know, I went to school in in an area like Poughkeepsie, New York, Dutchess County area. I went to Arlington High School, and I'm sure Arlington High School is probably very similar to the school that you went to. Even though it's New York, it's still like farm country for New York.
Yeah.
You know, it was a fairly large school, but the school district was huge. Like you would be on the bus for like an hour. You know,
I grew up in the suburbs, but it was that long too. Yeah, I graduated like 500 plus people.
Yeah, it's same. So it's like, as much as you and I want to try to attach our success to like this dogmatic, cool thing that we figured out or something like that. And I'm not trying to sit here and say like, hey, we're both born with a silver spoon in our mouth. Sure. We didn't have anything hard to do. But at the same time, that is some of my experience. Like I try to make sure that people know that, because I do want people to understand that, A, you don't necessarily have to have a ton of suffering in your past to excel and to be able to move forward. Although there are a lot of examples of that. There are a lot of people with a superhero story. Their parents were both addicts, and their grandmother watched them, and their grandmother died, and
sure.
You know, just these tragic stories and all these things. There's also some people, though, that grew up with parents that are loving, that actually were just very good parents in terms of creating people that were going to be on a good path.
Yes.
Right? And it's almost that simple of an equation. Because I bring that up because I don't really hear people talk about that much.
This is a great topic.
I think sometimes someone like myself, I want to take credit for like the stuff that I've done.
And you can to a degree, right?
I don't want to necessarily discredit what I've done, but my dad was an entrepreneur and my grandfather was an entrepreneur, and I saw them, making pens and T-shirts and hats with their logo or name or sticker or something. I saw them promote our mailbox. I remember I was kind of embarrassed by our mailbox because it said like Bell Financial on it. It was like a gigantic thing that, everybody would drive by.
Yeah.
I'm always like, trying to lay low.
90s and 2000s.
Trying to blend in with, everybody else type thing. And because my dad had that sign there because he did taxes and real estate type stuff right out of the house, and so as much as I want to be like, what I'm doing is cool and I'm badass, I like to share some of that. And you still got to do the work.
100%.
Once the work starts, you still have to do all the work.
Absolutely. One of the advantages, though, I think you may have touched on, but may have not even thought about, is loving home. Like, that's a huge advantage. And I think that that's the disadvantage, that if anybody's watching this, like, that's the thing that you can give the next generation regardless of your circumstances. Because my parents are still married to this day. They were never divorced. I come from a very Christian and loving home. My grandparents on both sides were together up until my grandfather's passed. Both grandmothers still around. Your folks, correct me if I'm wrong, but were married all the way up until the passing of one of them, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And so having a stable home and an environment where, regardless how bad Mark fucked up or how rich Mark got, Mom still loved you for who you were, and Dad still said the things that he said to you, I think is one of the most instrumental things that we can continue and help the next generation do, and probably one of the things that gave me the confidence to be like, hey, if I fail, at least I can cry in my mom's arms, right? Jokingly, but also not. Right. I think that's super important.
There's a lot of people that are just still searching for their parents' validation. There's a lot of people that are unfortunately still sort of living they're sort of living in their childhood because they've learned these behaviors to be effective for them one way or the other, whether it's protecting them and they're sort of like defending themselves from something, or they are lashing out with some other things. And being someone that owns a business, and then when you own a business and you have employees and stuff, you start to see that. You're like, oh, well, I'm probably dealing with some of the way that this person was raised. Because each person, it's like you wish that you could tell each person, like, this is the kind of company this is the way things go here, and this is the message, right? And you wish it would be interpreted the same way by everybody. But what makes this world so awesome is the fact that we all have different interpretations. I mean, it's why we have lawyers, it's why we have laws, it's why we have, even in every different city, there's different laws. They're written differently. The laws are re-examined and reinterpreted. The Bible, what's church? Church is just let's just reinterpret the Bible forever and ever,
True.
right? That's what they're doing.
I got my version, you got your version, yeah.
Yeah, and you may have been taught certain things, and you and I could even read the same Bible or have the same Bible verses communicated to us, but just because you were in Oklahoma and because I was in New York, we may have had people that had different interpretations
Absolutely.
of some of those things.
You see that within a church itself.
Yeah, right? And sometimes someone's like, they branch off from the church and there's
Sure.
like disagreement of, what some of this stuff means and what's it mean to be Christian.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, of course, great.
all those different things. So I just think it's kind of a fascinating thing, when you are someone that owns a business and you're trying to like sort of,
Juggle all of these people.
juggle some of these things, but then you just back up for a second, you try to have a little bit of grace for people and just understand that, something I learned early on was that like if someone wasn't taught something, then how do you expect them to know it?
Yeah.
If you didn't say it to them and you didn't say it to them very specifically, well then, if I'm thinking in my head like, oh my God, this guy is such an idiot, it's actually me that's the idiot. Like first of all, I may have hired the wrong person. I probably didn't really clarify myself. I probably didn't really explain, kind of the Jocko Willink thing, right? Just taking full
Absolutely.
ownership, like, no, actually, I think it's my fault that this got screwed up.
Sure.
And then you kind of start to realize, like, okay, well, actually, it doesn't even really matter whose fault it is. It's not to where we want it to be. So rather than like point fingers, let's maybe just communicate on how to amplify this and make the situation a little bit better.
I mean, I love it. It's onto it. Let's go back. Let's talk about your story as an entrepreneur then. So why don't you dive into how that evolved? How long ago were you working on this thing, and then you started building onto it, and then, in the house we talked about different business things that you're doing and how you've adjusted. And entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. It's not for everybody, because the ups and downs and the emotional roller coaster of finances probably aren't something that most people can handle. But
yeah, I think I have some, really fortunate things that have happened kind of along the way. Number one is I'm an inventor, so that kind of is a little different sometimes. Entrepreneurs and inventors and business owners, sometimes all three of those things don't work together very well.
not very many people invent new things anymore, to be honest.
Right, and sometimes somebody that invents something, I can think of like 5-6 people in my head right now that just, they don't understand how to like market something.
Good point.
They don't really know how to like create hype. So for me, I think like I'm more of like an inventor / marketer than I am an entrepreneur, because my wife actually like runs our business. So we should just end this podcast.
She's the operator.
And she should just come in here and talk.
I'm more like you. I'm the visionary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's she's the X's and O's, and she's the reason why the business has been so successful, and she's the reason why the business, maybe more so almost why the business has continued to be so successful, because you do need somebody that is like seeing around the corners.
Yeah.
You need, like, I think that's what true intelligence is. Like AI can do all this stuff, but like people having like gut instinct and intuition, and maybe the computers can figure some of the stuff out. I wouldn't put it past any of the technologies that we're coming up with, but like I think that human intuition is really powerful, and it's a factor in there somewhere. And my wife and I together, I think, have good intuition. Sometimes we disagree, and sometimes that disagreement actually ends up being awesome, because then it creates an even slightly better idea than what we may have originally thought, because one of us is looking out, for a potential blind spot.
Sure.
That maybe the other one wasn't quite seeing. But yeah, for me, being an inventor and then being able to market. And so if I'm to back everything up, my story started with YouTube.
So you started on YouTube.
I started on YouTube. I actually started before YouTube. I was on something called Putfile before
Wow.
YouTube even existed, and then that thing just went debunked.
What year was this?
It was 1849.
MySpace era.
Yeah. It was like 2006.
Okay.
Something like
Yeah.
that. The first video on my Super Training 06 YouTube channel, which does have a lot of followers, has like maybe almost close to 800,000 followers.
You still
or so.
post on that channel?
So I started to reactivate it
Awesome.
recently with more like powerlifting stuff because I did a couple powerlifting videos recently and I was like, these aren't going to go anywhere. No one's going to care because that channel has kind of been dead.
Yeah.
And then I was actually like, holy crap.
That's
These videos
legit.
are doing great. People still like to hear me talking about this topic. The first video that's on there, though, is my son, who's now 22. He's giving my daughter a doll. And my daughter's just born at the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
And my parents are there, and my wife is just getting like wheeled out, kind of like being like, "Don't film me, don't film me." You know?
What do you film? I mean, obviously not filming on maybe an iPhone back then. No?
A razor, probably.
Yeah, a razor.
Yeah. So it looks like Minecraft. You know, it's very pixelated and everything. Yep. But yeah, that's the first video, and then as I got deeper into my powerlifting career, I recognized that Super Training Gym was the gym that I owned, that I ran, that was for free for about a decade. Super Training Gym was like it was like a showroom, like a showcase area of various types of equipment, various types of lifts, but also the various equipment that I was inventing and creating. And it didn't start that way. It started out as just me having a powerlifting gym and me having a desire to be as strong as I possibly could be. And I knew I needed to get around like-minded individuals that were a bunch of savages and all that sort of stuff. And I created that environment. But as I was creating that environment, I ended up getting hurt a bunch of different times. And with the injuries came some of the inventions. But if I'm to back up before we get into like maybe some of the meat and potatoes of like the invention, what people fell in love with and what people were watching back then was the characters. Because not only did I film the lift, I filmed the, F you after the lift. Like, wait, who did you say F you to?
Oh.
Did you say F you to yourself, or did you say,
Yeah.
Somebody just slammed the weight down after they squatted, they slammed it back into the rack, and they said, F you. And it's like, well, that was different. Like,
Yeah.
And a lot of times it was just the guy talking to himself.
Yeah, for sure.
He's just angry,
Yeah.
He just has this stuff inside going on that no one else really knows is going on. Or I, kept it running while there was like banter, gym banter, locker room.
Behind the scenes.
Locker room, BS, all that kind of stuff. We had one lifter, his name is Treston Scholl, and Treston would wear this like wife beater tank top, and he'd have a cowboy hat on. He'd come in from work, he's got cowboy boots on.
That's legit.
And he'd be smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what are you doing in the gym? Like with a cigarette, he's just like, we're all just like messing around.
Yeah.
I'm like, go outside with that. And, I would just like, I'd film him and I'd talk trash and I'd be like, so you looked in the mirror this morning and you decided that this was a good idea to go in public like this. Like, this is ridiculous, And so people just got attracted to, because I think a lot of people have been in those environments.
For sure.
Where it's just real heavy. Your friends are just slaughtering you.
Yeah.
You're just getting, from
It's
all
locker
angles,
room.
People talking trash. And like, dude, I just got here. Can you give me 5 seconds? So.
Yeah.
I think that's originally what people latched onto, and then I started filming like, oh, hey, check out this girl that's working out here. She just squatted 600 pounds. Check out this 18-year-old kid right here. He just benched 500 pounds. And then people were just like, what is going on? And this is, this is 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
So this is before, because now the people that are lifting now, it's like,
It's insane.
it's gotten to be on even a different level than that.
Yeah. Dang. So your YouTube it started taking off, which drew attraction to you, and then at this point, where does the documentary come into play? Because I feel like that gave you a lot of eyeballs as well.
Yeah, Bigger, Stronger, Faster. I want to say it was like 2008, probably somewhere in there. So
Yeah. That was done so well, by the way. Just shout out to your brother. I mean, that was awesome. Because that's what was going on in my head. We're all getting lied to by all these hero syndrome things. And I grew up, I'm born in 1987, but still grew up in the older, like the era.
Yeah.
And Mark McGuire, right? Or Mark McGuire cranking homers, man, when I was playing baseball too as a kid.
Yeah.
And then we just got, like, Jose Canseco stuff came out and talking about steroids, because that was like the beginning of it. And I actually, not to go completely off subject, but like pro hormones came out over the shelf. And so I got involved in pro hormones.
I remember that.
And like in my late teens.
Yeah, Androsten.
Yeah,
Dione.
freaking A1D or some of this shit that came out, Super Drawl or whatever it was called. But it was basically synthetic. I mean, it was straight up steroids, but we didn't know until they got banned. And
Yeah, people would get like acne from it and get a little
get
bloated.
bitch tits too, man. People got gyno like crazy from that kind of stuff.
And you
because
would
of it.
actually get a little stronger.
Oh, straight up. Yeah,
People would
absolutely.
get a little stronger from some of that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think, you know, the times back then, things were just a little different in terms of where you were getting your information from was starting to like shift, and you started to see more stuff happening on, you know, YouTube, and there started to be like on my Instagram it says the first influencer.
Yeah.
And that was it's like partially a little bit of a joke, but like I was talking to a friend of mine fairly recently, and I was like, oh man, sometimes I hate the influencer thing, you know. I'm like, but I'm an influencer, like I don't mind.
You're OG influencer, man.
I don't mind admitting it, you know.
Yeah.
And then he was like, well, I think you're annoyed by it because you're the first influencer. And I was like, I'm putting that on my Instagram. That's
You're just mad at all the other ones that are copying you.
exactly. I was like, that's kind of cool. So,
Yeah. I remember when you'd always say, what was it? Race to 0 followers. I just laughed because I'm like,
oh yeah,
because you're gonna piss somebody off all the fucking time. I mean, any time. So
it's actually kind of funny. Like a lot of people with a lot of followers, they love when I do that kind of stuff. I get
because most people try to protect it.
I get text messages all the time.
Thank
like,
you.
I want to do that. You know, it's not really like an FU to the fans. It's more like, just the whole social media is just kind of ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
We just take a step back and just recognize how ridiculous it is and how fun it can be.
It is fun. I'm sure you made phenomenal connections through it as well.
Amazing.
Amazing. I mean, I knew you beforehand, right?
Connections,
So
sales, all kinds of different things.
For sure.
And YouTube is like not really ever considered to be social media because it's not quite as interactive as some of the other ones. But let's face it, it's social media as well.
It's the GOAT too.
And
honestly.
YouTube gives you this opportunity to have a platform where you sort of now like this is a show.
Right. Yeah,
have a
absolutely.
show.
Yeah.
And when you and I were growing up, it's like, how would you have a show?
Not a thing.
Like if you and I were kids and we were just sitting there talking and like, hey man, I think I got some interesting stuff to like share with people, and we'd be like, yeah, okay.
Are you gonna go to school and talk on stage?
Yeah. How do we do it? We'll speak over the loudspeaker.
Yeah.
Right? Like.
Better get in the theater, buddy.
Yeah, you wouldn't
or
know
be an actor
because you're not getting on ABC or CBS or NBC or anything.
It was very controlled.
Impossible to get on that stuff, and then even if you do get on some of those things, you have to be like super polished and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a difficult thing to figure out. But with where I started, starting on some of the social media stuff and then having Bigger, Stronger, Faster come out, the sort of the intersection of those things was just really pivotal because then, more people started to know who I was. It started to be easier. Most companies, one of the, Gary Vaynerchuk, right?
Yep.
A lot of people know Gary V. One of the things he was selling was, he kept saying over and over again, one of the biggest commodities you can have is attention.
Yes.
And obviously there's different types of attention, but mainly just attention, period.
Correct.
Do
you believe in that?
Good or bad press. Like
yeah.
You got some press thrown your way. These days you can get some pretty nasty bad press that can throw you way off. You probably saw some of the stuff with the, people are talking about eggs, and these eggs have these basically they're found out that some of these eggs or some of these chickens aren't being fed what they're supposed to be fed, and some of these expensive eggs are now getting like kind of canceled.
Sure.
But there's stuff like that can be devastating to a company. But if you're a good company, things won't be devastating. If you know how to handle PR and know how to handle people, then you should still be fine. But attention is a huge asset. And so for me, I already had a built-in audience. I probably already had maybe 100,000 or 150,000 people.
Wow, before the show even came out. That's cool.
Yeah, before like, not necessarily before Bigger, Stronger, Faster, but probably swirling around a similar time.
Sure.
And that was definitely before my podcast, and it was sort of simultaneous with some of the inventions. The Sling Shot didn't come until 2010, and I had the idea from like 2008. So everything all happened together. My oldest brother, my lifelong hero, died at a similar time and stuff like that too. So everything just sort of like it's a blur. And I think sometimes when I think back to that time, it just seemed like so much shit was going on because I was at my strongest. I would do a powerlifting meet. It seemed like I would do one like every other month. Like I just was like, I'm strong as shit.
Let's
I
do it
feel ready
again.
to go. Yeah, let's go and let's see where we're at. And I would bench 800 pounds and do all these. It was great. It was a really cool time. And then the products, started kind of selling, and I had the unfortunate situation of my brother passing, and like just all sorts of different things going on all at one time, and raising, with my wife, 2 young kids.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was just, it was super interesting.
Were you just running the business at that point? Like that's what you were doing full time? Or did you have a job or anything?
I didn't have a job. My wife and I started a powerlifting magazine company. We had something called Power Magazine. And so I spent quite a bit of time working on that. We had advertisers. The company sort of like just mainly broke even.
Sure.
But we were starting to sell some of our other products, and we were starting to finally starting to make some money. So that's what I mean by the timing of all this stuff. It's like I went from like not really making much of anything, not being known hardly at all. But then there's like this little curve of like I started being like known, then Bigger, Stronger, Faster comes along. I start to become more well known. The YouTube videos start to become more well known. Then the product comes along. Like the product comes along as I'm kind of going upward.
Awesome.
And so people are very trustworthy of me because I've already been sharing information forever.
Right.
And I wasn't trying to sell you on anything. So I probably had 4 or 5 years of a crazy amount of videos, because if you go back and you look at not only Super Training 06, but there's also another guy that used to do a lot of my media. His name's Jim McDonald. Jim McDonald is Jim McD1234, I think is his YouTube handle. And there's just a crazy amount of footage of all the stuff that we did at Super Training, all the meets, everything's there too. And so, and that channel has X amount of followers. That channel has X amount of views. And so, yeah, everything was just sort of like all sort of blending together. And sometimes when somebody asks me like a business question, I'm like, I don't know how to explain some of the stuff that's happened, with me and to me and for me, because it's some of it's a little bit of a blur, and some of it doesn't seem like it has a lot to do with business. But actually, if you drill into it a bit,
Absolutely
it has everything to do with business. So I was like marketing. I was marketing the most important thing. Well, not the most important thing, but I was marketing something that could be really important for people, which is yourself.
Yes.
I gotta give credit where credit is due. Like my fans are, and I don't know what other people's fans, I don't know how they are, but the fans of powerlifting are fanatical.
That makes sense.
They're a little bit like pro wrestling fans.
True.
Like they're
die hard.
They're die hard. They love it, and it's not just like hey, fist bump in the street. It's like,
bro,
they know me.
Yeah.
You and I ran into each other on the beach.
I know you. Yeah.
And you were with your
side.
kids and stuff, and I was there with my daughter and stuff like that. So it was a little different, like,
Sure. Organic dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit different dynamic, and you have your own stuff going on. You have your own show. Some of the people that I run into, they're still on that climb.
Yeah.
And it's like it means a lot to them.
Absolutely.
For them to meet me, and so they're awesome though. The fans are awesome. Like even though they're fanatical, they still do an awesome job of being like super polite. They're like, I don't want to take a bit.
That's awesome.
I'm like, I got a couple minutes. I can shoot the shit with you if you want. But
yeah,
I'm grateful. I'm grateful that
it's the backbone of your business.
That all of that has ever even happened in the first place.
Yeah. So, what product was taking off? What would you say was like the thing you're most known for? I mean, I think I have a guess, but
yeah, I think the Sling Shot is one of the biggest.
Yep.
I mean, I've sold over 1 million Sling Shots. Wow. And they've sold all over the world, and there's people that use it all the way from the military all the way through the NFL.
Absolutely.
There's, I remember actually kind of the first time where I was like, okay, like I saw sales, I saw what was going on, but sometimes things don't really register. I went to where the hell was I? I was in Montana, and I went to a random Gold's Gym because I was going to a CrossFit seminar there, And I figured, okay, the CrossFit seminar, that they wouldn't be uncommon for them to have a Sling Shot, or it wouldn't be uncommon for them to have a hip circle or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I just pop into this random Gold's Gym in Montana, and there's like 2 or 3 people there with some of the gear, a T-shirt, another person with wrist wraps, another person with a Sling Shot, and I'm like, I live in California. Like, I'm aware that it gets shipped here, but it wasn't.
Sure,
it
you're
wasn't
just doing your job, right?
Wasn't
You're
really
thinking in your head.
Yeah, I wasn't really registering, and I'm like, damn, that's pretty amazing. So, the Sling Shot definitely is the flagship product and has been the flagship product. For people that don't know, it's an elastic band. It stretches up. It goes up over your arms. You basically put it on both biceps, and it stretches across your chest, assisting you in push-ups, dips, bench press. The way I kind of just refer to it, or the way I explain it, is it acts kind of as double muscle. So when you're doing a bench press and you bring the weight down, that's the eccentric portion of the bench press. That's the lowering phase. Well, when you're doing that lowering phase, your chest is stretching, and so is the Sling Shot. As you go to press the weight and you go into the concentric portion, your chest is contracting and shrinking, and so is the Sling Shot. And the Sling Shot will kick you up to like a certain spot. It will give you maybe 30, 40, depending on the person, maybe 50 pounds out of the bottom, probably somewhere in between 10 to 20% of your max bench. It'll kind of pop up, and then you have to kind of do the rest with kind of like almost like lockout power, but it's almost like it's different than just your lockout power because you're getting momentum into it.
Right.
And I think part of the thing that has made the Sling Shot so effective is the fact that you really weren't able to do that before, because this is full range of motion with a lot more weight than you can normally ever handle. And previously, the only way to achieve that was sometimes with a bench shirt, and a bench press shirt sometimes takes a couple people to put it on you. It's something
super
that's
tight, right?
used by powerlifters. Yeah, you're wrenching yourself in there. They're very expensive, and they hurt. It hurts to wear a bench shirt. It's a very painful experience. So I thought, like, no one ever is going to buy these things. Only powerlifters buy those things, and it's a very small,
very
it's kind of a
market.
Smaller market, right? But I was like, if I could create something that you could just put on easy, that sort of represented what a bench shirt does, but also allows you to train in a full range of motion, because a bench shirt is so tight that if you had, I think you said you benched like over 400 pounds,
like
right?
my max, before.
So if I gave you 405, you would probably only be able to bring it down halfway in a bench shirt.
Oh, wow.
And then we would put 455 on, and 455 would probably touch, and then it'd be a matter of like, if you could learn the bench shirt, then you would be able to press 455.
That's wild.
And then if I worked with you for a few weeks and we worked on your strength and worked on your lockout, could probably easily get you to bench 500 pounds.
Holy cow. With the shirt on, though.
With the bench shirt on.
Yeah, for sure.
But what was cool about the bench shirt, and what I learned about the bench shirt, what I learned about from powerlifting, was now that you can do the 500-pound bench press, how much can you bench raw?
Does it change it?
I
have no idea.
It changes it quite a bit.
Wow.
It wouldn't be like all of a sudden you're benching 455.
Sure.
But over time, as you get used to the bench shirt, and in addition, you're still doing your raw work and still doing everything normal. We would see that creep up from 405 to 415 to 425. Very much the same, as people can understand this easier when we talk about a belt.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
strongman guys, sometimes a strongman guy might wear 2 belts.
I've seen it.
They wear like the neoprene, then they wear a big belt over top. You got, somebody like Eddie Hall, who's, the first guy to deadlift over 1,100 pounds. Now, Eddie Hall doesn't take off his belt and then he shimmies and shakes all over the place trying to deadlift 600 pounds.
Right.
Like he's
probably close to the 1,100 pounds.
Yeah, he probably could, if he had the lifting straps and he just didn't have the belt, he probably might lift 100 pounds less. Or
Wow.
maybe 10 or 20. So he's getting a percentage
Sure.
from the belt. But that percentage, if you think about, this is utilized in every capacity you can probably think of, from a biomechanics standpoint, from a human performance standpoint. overspeed running, overspeed eccentrics. There's something called a 1080 machine. 1080 machine, you can hook to anything. You can kind of hook it to a belt, and you can just haul ass and just run, as fast as you want with it. And it will, whatever tension you want to put on it, it's
drag.
a computer. It can create some drag. It also can pull you towards it. And you would probably be awesome at getting pulled towards it because you mentioned that you're explosive. For me, at my age, with me being so far removed from a lot of explosive activity, that's going to be really hard. That would be like me trying to run downhill.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that. Okay.
It's going to be very difficult for me to be able to do that. But anyway, even in like rehab, even in all kinds of different things, they've found ways to support people's weight by small percentages, like on a treadmill, to get them acclimated. So it's like, okay, you weigh 200 pounds, but when you're doing this activity for today, you're actually only going to weigh like 165.
Yeah.
Because we want your tibia or your shin bone or whatever, we want that to recover. We want to build that bone back up because you broke it. You go on this treadmill that suspends you a little bit. You go on there. Or some people use water to do something similar, right? So all of this stuff has been around for a really long time, and we've seen it in lifting with things like a rack deadlift. Where you rack pull.
You're not going to the floor, yeah.
You're not going to the floor. You're doing partial range of motion work. We've seen this in exercises where people will use partial range of motion squats. The partial range of motion squat, some people get all upset when someone does a 3/4 squat. But it could really help someone from a mental perspective. It's not just the central nervous system, but it's a mental perspective of, oh, now I can handle, I handle the 5 plates. And at some point, maybe it's a year, maybe it's 2 years down the road, I'll actually be able to
90.
squat that full range of motion. So that's the Sling Shot.
And just getting acclimated to pulling off the rig, right? That kind of weight, pulling off the rig, walking backwards, sitting there. I mean, that right there probably
Or the
helps.
first time you on rack, for bench press 3 plates, you're like, oh my God, this is like, I can't believe it. I've always dreamt of doing this weight, and now you have the opportunity to do it. And you can feel it with the Sling Shot, and then it's not like it's going to be weeks later that you're randomly banging out 315 for reps because you used a Sling Shot. Progressively over time, you're going to be able to handle those weights.
Yeah.
Louis Simmons referred to it as the future method. He said that because one thing you can do to mimic a Sling Shot is to use it's called a reverse band.
Okay.
Reverse band setup, which would be in a power rack, you hook bands to the top of the power rack, and then you slide the barbell into where the bands are.
Sure.
And then you add weight to the barbell.
Gotcha.
You got to be very careful with this, and you got to use collars and make sure you don't knock yourself out.
Right.
Or whatever.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, exactly. And then whatever the strength of those bands are is going to take like X amount of weight off.
That makes sense.
You
Similar
do
to
the
the
same
opposite
thing
with chains, right? The chains are technically, the lower you get, the less weight comes off. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, whether you hook the bands down underneath you to go against the bands, or whether you have chains on there, or whether you have the bands set up above to assist you, the weight is still lighter at the bottom and heavier at the top, which is just sort of weird math that happens. But they definitely have a way different feel to them. But that whole process is called accommodating resistance. And it's something I utilized for many years with doing a lot of this stuff with Westside Barbell. But it's a way to brush up against something difficult and get some of the benefits from it without ending up with some of the negative, because it's changing the strength curve. And when you go to push into a weight and the weight has bands on it, let's say, there's just more and more band tension as I go to press through that weight. And it's a lot different than if it's just a straight weight and there's no bands on there, because the weight is the same throughout the whole range of motion. One thing that can do is that can help someone to build a little bit more speed, maybe a little bit more explosiveness. And so with the bands, you sort of have to press. You only have a certain amount of time to press the weight, regardless of whether the bands are on there or not.
Sure.
But with the bands lightening up at the bottom, your best opportunity to press it is to be kind of quick off the bottom, because 225 pounds of the bands on there might be like
momentum.
Might be like 265 at the bottom, but it might be 300 at the top.
Yeah.
So you better haul ass up to the top, so really grinding through 280, 290 to 300.
Hell no. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Let's drive back into business. What was one of the biggest struggles that you've had as an entrepreneur? Dang, like I think all entrepreneurs go through certain things. Like especially, I don't know which way it was for you, financial, hiring, whatever. Biggest struggle, and then what would be like oh my gosh, I cannot believe we sold that many units, or we did X amount this month. Like where it's just mind blowing to you at that point. So the hard parts, hard stuff, the best stuff.
There's been some stuff where if I look back on it now, it's like comical, and it was hard at the time, and it was annoying at the time, and it was, difficult.
Stressful at the time.
But stressful, but it's like some of it was just ridiculous, so we had one situation where for some reason somebody would go to order and the order went through, but the person wasn't able to tell that the order went through.
Oh no.
And so some people meticulously, hit the button because they're like, I'm trying to order.
So they're ordering like 10 units.
Yeah, and it just piles up, and we're just seeing as we started to uncover what was going on, it was like 37 orders from one person. It was like 20 orders from another person. It was like 10 orders.
And you're packing them and shipping them.
And well, we didn't.
We caught it sooner than
that. We started to catch it, pretty early because we were like, why are these? It was just odd the way that they were, the way it was happening. But basically, we had to figure out, not me, obviously, but people that worked for me had to figure out kind of one by one, line by line, going through PayPal, I think it might have been at the time, line by line of like, okay, that's not an actual order. That's not an actual order. That happened, 15 times. Okay, I need to pay that person 15 times, I'm trying to make sure, and then communicating with the customer and saying, hey, something on the back end of our site, something went haywire, something went really strange, and we are so sorry. We are packaging up your order. Is there something else you would like from the site? Like, can we help or assist? Like, we feel terrible. This is
customer service.
And also, are you square? Like, are you okay with, like, we're going to refund you $80. We're still sending you the Sling Shot or whatever it was you ordered. Does that sound good? And so they went through every single person. And I've always said, let's try to go above and beyond, because that's something that I learned was these shitty things that happen are actually really awesome opportunities for further communication.
Yeah.
And you can take this from business and you can take this into your own life, and you can think your son comes back from school, he's a little bit later than normal, and you're like,
what's going on here?
You've been around the block a couple times, and you're like, his eyes look a little different, a little bloodshot, smells a little different,
Yeah.
So that's not a horrible thing. That's not like
he's alive.
That's not you.
Right.
You flip over the dinner table and say, it smells like you smoked marijuana. I cannot believe this. And you go and you yell to your wife about it. Look what he did, and just flipping out. Right.
Yeah.
It's actually a great opportunity for some conversation, and maybe the conversation doesn't even happen right then. Maybe you wait and maybe you talk about it at a different time. Sure. Maybe mom's in the room and you want to say, like, let's go man to man on this one.
Yeah.
And we'll just discuss it on a walk and say, hey, you smelled like marijuana the other day. Did you like it? Did you get super high? Was it fun, or did you hate it? Or right now you have an opportunity.
Creating a conversation with them. Wow, you have such a better approach with that.
Right, and so when it comes to business, somebody gets a knee sleeve. Hey, this thing's a piece of shit. This thing sucks. I can't believe you guys are even selling this. Oh, okay, that's. You must be comparing it to another product. Which knee sleeve do you like? Which brand do you like? And they might tell you. I say, okay, well, what do you think the difference is? And they might say. And say, okay, well, that's fair. Maybe you just enjoy that knee sleeve better, or.
Sure.
Okay, can we get you your money back, or or do you want something from the site, or do you think the whole site sucks?
Yeah, exactly. Just want to be done with us.
But it's just it's conversation. And a second thing that happened to us was, and this just goes to show you that the worst thing about communication is thinking that it ever happened in the first place. And probably the best example I have of this is we were getting our knee sleeves made in a certain country, and there was like a literal breakdown in communication.
Translation,
and
yeah.
So we knew somebody that speaks this language, and so we're like, let's see if we can get this manufacturer to to come to the U.S.
Sure.
and to communicate with our friend that speaks the same language. So it was unbelievable because they go back and forth for 5 minutes. And basically, in short, what happened was when they went from doing right knee sleeves, and then when they went to go and do left knee sleeves, they just didn't recalibrate the machine.
Oh, no way.
That's the only thing that happened. And so we had a few thousand knee sleeves that were like all the right side
Calibrated
were one way,
for
all the left side were different, and so you have
Yeah.
one's and it wasn't even like a full size. So if they were a full size off, we could have probably salvaged a lot of those because we probably could have been like, okay, well, if we just have ones that match up that are a smaller size, okay, the sizing is messed up, and that might confuse the customer. And so we can probably figure that out by just ripping out the tag and like starting over. But we couldn't do that because they were all like in the middle.
Oh,
So
man.
like the left ones were one way, and then or whatever the situation was, and the right ones were like, they weren't necessarily a full size difference. It was like somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And so we lost thousands of products, in addition to probably a lot of money.
A lot of money.
But in communicating with the manufacturer and then realizing that that's their error, then we both went to something that we felt was reasonable, where we can all move forward and
Sure.
and figure things out from there. But stuff like that is, I think it's important to understand that all problems, you might not always feel this way, but all problems most likely have some sort of solution.
Yes.
I guess tragically, there's definitely situations where they just don't. There's certain things that are just awful and horrible in this world, and they don't always have a solution. But I think it's good to have hope that almost all things have a solution somewhere. And so you try to reframe your brain to be solution oriented. So even in that situation, though, what came out of that was that really helped sort of like brand our company. Because now the communication with the customer, hey, oh my God, I cannot believe this. Did you order knee sleeves from us recently? Hey, you mind looking at those? Are they are they screwed up? We had a problem with the machine. Machine wasn't calibrated the right way. I want to make this right. You want a T-shirt? You want a gift card? Some people were like, actually, my left leg's a little bigger than my right, so it worked out perfect.
You're like, all right, sweet.
Yeah, so there was like situations like that, but there was definitely some odd situations over the years where there was just. Luckily, we've had great customers, and luckily we have had great employees. There's not like, I don't have like a real horror story. We've had damaged goods. We've had products get wet. We've had our fair share of things that just in the beginning you're like, holy, how am I gonna get through this? Because we don't really have the funds to bypass any of this. In terms of like things like skyrocketing and things selling really well, there's a few stories there. Like one is once we started selling knee sleeves, that really changed everything quite a bit, especially because like in 2015, 14, 16, that era, powerlifting was really, really popular.
Okay.
I wanted to make knee sleeves a few years earlier, and I had a prototype for one, and I didn't pull the trigger because I was like, people just, they don't even really care. They don't barely wear knee sleeves. And knee wraps. Knee wraps were still popular in powerlifting. There wasn't a knee sleeve thing. Raw powerlifting didn't even exist. And I've said this before, and I'm not trying to be cocky about it, but I put raw powerlifting on the map,
For sure.
not as a lifter myself, but with what we did with Stan Efferding,
Yep.
and being someone that has promoted some meets. I had some raw competitions, and they were very scarce. They didn't really exist before. As weird as that sounds, I'm not trying to be the old guy that claims he invented.
No,
it
it is weird that it sounds that way too, because I would think that it would be more common to, like, most people are most average people going to the gym are lifting raw.
I know, and I think what happened was in the sport of powerlifting is that powerlifting gear just became the norm. And then someone like you might show up at a meet and not even know that, like,
that
you're
exists.
going against someone in a squat suit. And you're thinking, like, I'm going to do really well. I squat 600, I bench 4, and I pull 6. Like, I'm ready. And then, somebody's, like, lifting way more than you because you're competing in the same division. And so, excuse me, the raw division was something that I ended up sort of creating at some other point. But, you go through these things and you just learn that, again, some of these things are just like an opportunity to communicate with the customer, but then also kind of back to my point about the wanting to make the knee sleeves. And that was a gut thing where I really wanted to make them, and I just didn't follow through. It's like my fault. That's an area, that's a thing where I can say, man, we could have been selling knee sleeves right at the same time as like SBD. In SBD, I take my hat off to that company. They're kicking ass. They're doing such a good job, and I really admire the fact that they put money back into strongman. They put money back into powerlifting. That's something that for my company, we decided to go a different route for many different reasons, and we didn't really go as much with the influencer route or the athlete route. We just kind of, because I already had the asset, which is the attention.
Yep.
And I already had the followers and the fans.
Need to do that.
I was like, I don't really need to do that. And as much as I do love powerlifting, and some people are like, you turn your back on powerlifting, you're not supporting it. That's really not the case, but you do get to a point where you're running a business. And do you want your margins to really be hampered this much? But it's not all about the margins, but the margins are important.
100%.
We have a payroll. We have people to pay.
I would argue from a business standpoint. I'm more of a business owner than that. I would say, margins are
100%.
absolutely important.
Well, and then also too, if you ever think about, like, if anyone ever comes in and audits this thing, not necessarily the government, but like anyone comes in and audits this thing for like sale, they'll be like, why is this guy getting paid, $10,000 a month? And you're like, well, he's an influencer and he's awesome at squats. You're like, well,
okay.
Yeah. And what about this other guy? Oh, he's a great bencher and he talks about our elbow
He has
sleeves
lots of followers.
He talks, it's like people don't really understand that doesn't move the needle quite as much as you might think. And also sponsoring these contests and stuff. You have to sponsor the contest for a long time. You're not, people aren't going to be like, oh, wow, look at Sling Shot supported this thing. Oh, that's super
I think
cool.
I'll go buy one.
Yeah, but if you're there all the time and you're putting that time, energy, and the money in,
For sure.
that's when you might see a little bit more of a return. So I decided to put my time and effort into different stuff, and my thing was education. And my thing was all those videos that I put together.
You already had a good track record. You already had a platform.
And then basically trying to bring in high-level powerlifters to also teach people like Ed Cohn, and a lot of these people I tried to bring in because I'm like, it's cool that a bunch of people know about me, but how do they not know about these other lifters that are, quite frankly, way better than me?
Sure.
I would like them to know more about these people. And that's kind of how the podcast started. And that was really a big thing that probably helped a ton with marketing.
What was the best?
There's, obviously there's like Black Friday and there's some things like that that have happened. When we started selling knee sleeves, that was a big thing where we saw like a good hockey stick, rise in sales. But like there was also, with my company, so I have 3 companies. I have Sling Shot, which is some of the stuff we've talked about already. I have Within You brand, which is a supplement company, makes steak shake, total carnivore, and a bunch of other products, some hydration products and things like that. And then I have another company called Mind Bullet. And Mind Bullet has kava and kratom combinations, kratom gummies and kratom capsules and things like that. And within the same week, we got mentioned twice by two huge stars. So one time, it was Tom Segura on his own show talking with some other people that also tried Mind Bullet, and they were all talking it up, and they were talking fairly positively about it. They were talking about how it can be addictive,
For
so
sure.
everyone just always do their own research. Like, look up Kratom, and you're going to see a lot of bad, crazy stuff. But I use Kratom. I use it almost daily, and I happen to enjoy it and don't feel addicted to it. But again, do your own research. But Tom Segura mentioned it and went poof, and went crazy. But then Tom Segura was on Joe Rogan in that same week, and he mentioned it on there. It was really funny the way they mentioned it on there, like, because the way they made it sound, it sounded dangerous, but it also sounded amazing at the same time.
Like,
So-
that's hilarious.
So Segura's like, yeah, he's like, it's kind of like Coke.
You're like, damn, that's
And they're-
not good.
And they're both getting fired up, and yeah, Rogan's like, yeah, he's like, Chris Bell gave me some of those because my brother,
brother, yeah.
also was part of the company and stuff like that, and so they're like, yeah, Chris Bell got me some of those. He gave me 10 capsules or something like that, and my brother's like, my brother tells me, he's like, I did not give him 10 capsules. I told him that's how many capsules I take.
Oh my
Because my brother
gosh.
has a ton of chronic pain.
Sure.
And my brother has been trying to figure out how to manage that chronic pain for a long time. So he's like, I said, I take 10. You should maybe take like 4.
Yeah, start slow.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, that just made the product go
Just blow up.
completely nuts. And my sister-in-law was doing the shipping and receiving and stuff for that company at that time. And it was like, and my wife. And there would be like 10 sales a day, 20 sales a day, just decent amount of sales. And there's some subscribers and stuff like that too. But I think, in one day it's like 600,
Dang, yeah,
600
because of that.
sales. And then the day after there's like 500. And the day after that it's like 600. And it didn't seem to stop because, a podcast, especially Rogan's podcast, that's the biggest one there is, right?
For sure.
It's like a pulse, so it's like, okay, a bunch of people listen to it on Monday, maybe some people lose it in the shuffle, and then all of a sudden randomly a bunch of people get a hold of it on Thursday.
Well, it gets clipped up, it gets on TikTok, it gets on Facebook,
People
it gets on
just
Instagram.
listen to like parts of it,
Sure.
and then people
they go
finally
watch it.
Yeah, and then they finally get to that part of it, and so on. So it's crazy, and the sales of it, it just went through the roof.
Sure.
In that particular situation. So yeah, those are some of the major ones. And then obviously, like when I first started, it was like, just don't say anything. Don't post anything because we're going to end up
Because they're going to
selling
sell
out
too many.
Yeah.
Do you mind disclosing what your best year was?
Oh, from like
Gross
a
revenue?
financial
Yeah,
standpoint.
gross revenue.
Here's the kind of best part, is I kind of have a ballpark, but I'm not going to share it on here. But I have a ballpark idea, but the best part is I don't actually know.
You really don't? Your wife is in the books.
My wife knows,
CPAs.
and some other people that do our books know. But
What do you get? Just like us out there, like, here, Mark, here's some of the money, here's some money.
Yeah, exactly.
And
No.
don't go crazy.
No, I don't know how much my house costs. I don't know how
Really?
much my cars cost. I mean, I have an idea. I mean, I've seen.
Which I wouldn't say, don't take this the wrong way, but I wouldn't say like you're an extravagantly living person. Does that make sense? Like,
No, it's not crazy. Over
yeah,
the
yeah,
top.
you're smart with your money is what I'm trying to do. So it's a compliment. You know what I'm saying?
Normally, yeah. I mean, there's some stuff, and if there's extravagance, it's like in the stuff that I really like. It's
Right.
I mean, I'm not just buying like something random and fancy. Like
Just to buy it.
I do have like watches and a couple things, but
Sure.
I don't have anything too
What's your favorite watch? What do you have?
crazy. I have a yacht watch.
Yachtmaster?
Yachtmaster watch.
yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, so I have a couple things like that, and some of those things are more like almost like a symbol, or it represents like a part in time where I'm like, you know what, I probably should celebrate and get something cool.
And you could argue that a watch is a pretty decent way to invest it and leave it in parked and it doesn't drop in value too much, right? So I agree. I think the same thing with timepieces.
Exactly. Yeah, but so like and even when we had super training, like I didn't know. I just my wife and I, we have our separate roles in the company, and she will, anything that's like going wrong with the company, she will like pull all of that and not even communicate hardly any of it to me. Every once in a while, she kind of has
Wow.
to, but she takes all of that, and I'll be like, "What's going on?" She'll be like, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah, I find that extremely awesome because my wife and I are in business together too, and I handle a lot of the financial side as well. I would say she has a pulse on it, but I think that it affects her more. So I guess what I'm trying to say in short is there's an advantage here because it would be really hard for you to know that you guys lost X amount of dollars or you only have X amount in your account because of a hard time or a return policy or something or somebody sued you, whatever it may be in business, entrepreneurship 101. To be like, hey, let me get on camera today. I'm super
Right.
excited. You see what I'm saying? Like it could just soul suck you. And I can tell you from my own standpoints, like when business, if there's certain things going on, it will directly affect how excited you are to shoot a podcast with somebody or whatever it may be, right?
I do remember when I was lifting that at that time, because the company was still newer, I remember looking at my phone, and I used my phone to play the music that we had playing. And I went to like use my phone, and I got like a text, and it was like, you know, something went sideways, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I can't really, you know, I'm pretty good at internalizing stuff. I'm pretty good at like, you know, having some equanimity and some balance and stuff like that. But that was like, it was usually like, it would be bad timing, you know, it wouldn't work well with, you know, I'm trying to, you know, squat 900, and I'm supposed to do it for 3 sets of 3 or something like that for that particular day. And that would like just kind of tilt me sideways enough to where I was like, I can't really mix the two very well. So I think, I don't really remember whether we had a conversation about it or not, but I do think I told my wife, like, if you don't feel like I need to know, then I'd rather just not know. And then that's kind of how it came to be, that I like literally don't know how much we make or spend.
Or what your house costs.
I don't know a lot of that. I don't know a lot of that stuff. I think it's kind of fun too, though. You know,
To not know?
Yeah, in some weird way.
Oh yeah, I mean honestly, it's super fun. I mean, you should be very grateful for it, right? Because you're not going through the emotional roller coaster.
I am grateful for it.
You live free, like.
And yeah, I don't have to think about it. I mean, I know like years ago we bought a beach house, and when it was kind of funny because like it was this area that we go to frequently, and we're just walking past this house, and it says for sale. Oh, I was like, it'd be just killer to buy a house here. I was like, well, we should buy that one right there, you know, as we were walking by. And she's like, yeah? I said, yeah. She's like, oh. She's like, I'll call. So she called like while on our walk, you know, and she made like an appointment to like see the house. And she's like, do you want to go with me? I was like, nope.
Because you didn't never even know what it cost.
Yeah,
you did not know. Wow, that's awesome.
I was like, bring someone that will care more. So she went with her dad, and her dad was excited about it because he loved going there too and stuff like that. So, yeah. I don't know. I like being that way.
Yeah.
In some ways, and I didn't truly know whether we could afford it.
Yeah.
But I also know that my wife's smart enough to not, you know,
overextend
us and put us in some.
I think
that's
a hack. I mean, it's truly a hack because think about yourself as an influencer, putting yourself out there or working with people. Like, you've insulated yourself from maybe the business stress potential. Because even when things are going great, sometimes it's still stressful.
And I usually don't learn much about that either, unless like every once in a while, like we'll have like a record or something like that, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but
yeah. But you're not driven by money. It doesn't sound either.
It doesn't. Yeah, I never really cared that much about money from the time I was a kid. All I knew about money, I guess I shouldn't say I didn't care about it. All I knew about money from the time I was a kid is that I wanted to make a bunch of it.
Yeah, but why?
I felt like it buys you time and freedom.
It buys you options. So but you would still say you're not driven by money.
It buys you some convenience. I think. I mean, at this point, you know, it's easier to say when you're well off if you're not driven by money. But of course, I must have been driven by money.
Oh,
Must
yeah.
have been playing in the background
Absolutely.
a lot. I mean, I've always been fascinated by money, and from the time I was a kid, I always talked about being rich. My dad, so we used to drive past this. I don't know why. I don't know what this place was. I don't know why it was a gym, and it was in the shape of like a castle. That was in my area, and it had like a racquetball court and swimming and a bunch of other stuff in there. And the name of the gym was called the Castle, and we used to like drive by it. And I think I'm like 7, 8 years old, and I was like, I want to live in a castle. And then my dad was like, he's like, well, are you gonna have a moat? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what's a moat? I was like, you mean a boat? And he's like, no, I'm a moat. I'm like, what's a moat? He's like, oh, it's the body of water that you'll have around your castle.
Yeah.
If you ever build a castle, you'll have a moat. You'll have water in there. And I was like, oh, you mean like place to put alligators? He goes, you can put whatever you want in there. He's like, you want alligators in there? Yeah, you have alligators. And I was like, and then you have like the bridge thing, right? My dad's like, yeah, drawbridge. Yeah, you have drawbridge, going into your castle. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And then one of the homes that we ended up buying, we don't live there anymore. It kind of had I forget what they're called, but it's sort of dome
Like a
type.
cupola.
Yeah, there you go, real estate guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had that feature, and I was like, well, there we go. There's the castle.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's cool. Well, any business advice that you would share with somebody who wanted to start a business or is already in that rough phase of starting a business?
I just like for people to push their ideas forward. Because everyone has an idea. People come to me and they're like, hey, I got this. It's like, yeah, go do it.
Do it. Action, right?
Yeah, go and do it. I know it's a little cliche, but it's like, that's the truth. And then once the hard part isn't really starting. I don't think.
No, I think it's the exciting part.
I think it's probably
It's
the
continuing when it's the most boring or it's the hardest.
Yeah. I remember years ago, Bradley Martin starting Zoo Culture, and he called me, and he was saying he's having a grand opening and everything. I was like, oh man, I don't think I can make it down there. And I said, hey, tomorrow is like the start of because he's telling me about all these permits. He had to do all this stuff, jump through all these hoops.
Yeah.
He has a gym in
LA.
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And Zoo Culture is
I've worked out there.
still doing great, and
Yeah.
and he's doing an awesome job with that. But I remember just telling him, like, all right, that's just the beginning, this is just you getting started. So I think, number one is like, go and do it. And number two is, before you go and do it, make sure that you can do it, not necessarily like super hard, but make sure you can do it for a long time. Because, ask yourself, like, am I going to be excited about this in 5 years? People have a lot of different types of business ideas and a lot of different areas that they want to explore. But if you just got your hands on something new, so let's say you like surfing and you got some surfing invention someone handed you, and you're like, this is awesome, this is so cool. You're all pumped up and you want to support, or you want to start a business with somebody, and you want to put your money into it. Are you going to be excited about that in 5 years? And are you the one to talk about that, to market it? If you're not, then that's okay. But now you just have to think of a different strategy. Like
point.
For me, like you mentioned surfing, right? So I don't know anything about surfing, but if I invented something, if I invented something that I thought was cool, then I might go to you and say, hey, what do you think about this?
Sure.
And you might show it to, a couple.
Buddy that's better than me, yeah.
Someone who's better than you. And then we were like, the three of us get together and we're like, this actually seems really, but are the three of us, maybe for me, maybe I don't have to be the most excited because I created the product, but maybe you guys and maybe your buddy who's better than you at surfing, maybe they do have, like somebody has to carry that load. And so I think that's something to really think about. Don't have it be like a hindrance for you not starting at all.
Sure.
And don't get hung up on it, but it is a question.
Yeah.
And you have to think about your past, because I know I don't know if women do this too, but I know a lot of men that we can flip-flop on stuff.
Big time.
We get real excited. We're CrossFit.
Then it's boom.
Jiu-jitsu. Right?
Yeah, it's what's
boom,
kept
you
me
leave.
going is just bouncing around.
And people see me do that with diets and bodybuilding
Sure.
and powerlifting and all
Good
kinds
point.
of stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's because it's fun. It's fun to do these new things, but business-wise,
adventure.
business-wise, like you got to be a little bit careful with that. So if you don't have an Andy Bell, if you don't have somebody kind of running the day-to-day, she may not, like, she has like certain obligations to fulfill, and it doesn't really matter her level of excitement. There's just like certain things that have to happen.
Things that need to get done.
For the company to, for the company to be the company that it is. But collectively, we both need to be excited about it, because if we're not, it's not going to make the money that it should make. It's not
Sure.
going to even come close to the potential.
Sure.
And we've had a few years where we maybe weren't as excited as like the beginning, or we weren't as excited as
Absolutely.
like getting over.
Honeymoon phase is over.
Because I mean, we're now like, I don't know, 15 years into it or something. So, but anyway, yeah, just those are the two main things. One is to like, really start to get your ass moving, think about the idea more, talk to more people about it, get that idea out there, tell people what you want to do. Because if you start talking to people, start telling people what you want to do, you'll be actually, there's always your friends that are going to like make fun of you and stuff.
Sure.
But even your friend that makes fun of you, he's going to be like, oh, remember Bill? Bill's way into that, And
Once you're successful.
yeah, there's that too. But there's people that a lot of people are willing to help. So tell people about your idea, get your ass moving on it. But in the back of your head, also kind of think about what I said. Are you going to be pumped about this in 5 years? Because if you're not pumped about it, then nobody else probably will be.
That makes sense. Awesome, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Where can they find you?
You can find me at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch you guys later.